Get ready. Helena Hustle is now live. Here, we will showcase successful leaders in business, athletics, healthcare, and all things that make Helena a great place to live. Join Dr. Daniel Bridge, owner of Endurance Chiropractic, as he searches out amazing individuals who are making a tremendous difference in this place we call home. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired with the Helena Hustle podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Helena Hustle podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have Joe Mitchell of State Farm Insurance here with me. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Joe, we're going to kick it off. We're going to get going into the weeds right away. I want you to share with me 2 truths and a lie about yourself, and I'm going to see if I can figure out the lie.
Okay. So 2 truths and a lie. How about I've ran a sub 6-minute mile. I was homecoming king of my college. And I'm trying to make this one really believable for you. I'm going to throw you off on this one. So you need 2 lies and 1 truth, right?
2 truths, 1 lie. And I think I'll let you finish, but I've already got this figured out.
Do you really?
I do.
2 truths and a lie. So what do we have so far?
I think we have 2 truths. Let's just say that you have run a 6-minute mile and you were the homecoming king of college.
Sub 6-minute
Sub
mile.
6. Am I right?
Yeah, those are both true.
I
Now I got to come up with a lie.
Well, I figured it out already. Tell me about this sub 6-minute mile. That's pretty sweet for a college football lineman.
So I come from a really kind of a broken home, poor family situation. And so I've had this idea in my head that if I was going to make it in life, I needed to be an athlete. Mm-hmm. And so from my sophomore year to my junior year in high school, I made pretty significant improvements. And then from my junior year to my senior year, it was pretty apparent to me that if I worked hard, I'd have an opportunity to play at the collegiate level.
So sports? You were playing football. I know that.
Yep,
were you doing other
football.
sports?
I did run track my senior year.
You did? Okay.
Yep. And so the summer between my junior year of high school and senior year of high school, I worked a lot on my speed.
Okay.
And so the first day of practice in high school, coach always had us run a mile because he wanted to find out which dudes were working out over the summer. And so I weighed about 225 pounds and I ran like a 5:56.
Holy crap. Had you been doing long distance miles?
No, and I wasn't doing miles.
You'd been focusing on speed work.
I was running hundreds.
And a 5:55.
I'd have my little Dodge Daytona, $600. That was my second one. My first one was $250. Okay. So I upgraded to the red one. One of the lights kind of it was always like it was winking at you a little bit. You had to pull the other one up. But so I'd go to the field and I'd turn the music on loud in the neighborhood and I'd have my lights on and I'd bump music and I'd run hundreds. I'd run 40s and I'd run hundreds.
Really? Mm-hmm. What did your coach say?
Where did that come from?
5:55.
I moved to running back my senior year and I got recruited to play running back in college.
Where did you get recruited?
So I was offered to walk on at University of North Dakota. Mayville State was pretty hot on me, Valley City State University. And I ultimately ended up going to Concordia College in Moorhead, which I'm so
where
grateful for.
Where you won homecoming king, which I'm looking forward to getting into. But yeah, so you went to Moorhead.
Yeah, I loved it, man. It was just a good fit. I think when we talk about business or whatever else we're going to talk about, I think a lot of figuring some of this stuff out is just finding out a good fit. And it was a community that cared about the success of not just me as a football player, but me as a person, as a human being, as a student athlete. And I'll tell you, I almost quit my freshman year. I had a lot of personal things going on, problems with my dad and mom, and just a lot of noise. And I think I had failed a math exam. And I'm just like, man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I had been working for my uncle's plumbing company in the summers, and he was very eager to have me back if I wanted to go into the trades, which I would have been a good option for me. But I kind of let it slip to a friend that I was thinking about hanging it up. And I had several visitors that week.
So not just football, but school as
well.
well.
I was just going to go and work for my uncle and go into the trades. And I had quite a few people stop by and say, we heard you're thinking about quitting. You're not going anywhere. I'll bring you to the tutor. I'll help you. And we want you to be here and we want you to make this thing happen. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of people along the way who've loved me and cared about me and supported me and encouraged me when things were tough. And so, sometimes when you have a little bit of success, it reminds you of those kind of moments where you could have easily went a different way.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. You know, you look back at your life and some small, well, maybe not small, but pivotal decisions. I mean, you just Joe Mitchell State Farm just won Helena Business of the Year. Am I right?
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to learning more about that. But you just won that. And then you think, okay, 10 years ago, you had an opportunity, 15 years ago to quit school. You probably would have been a great tradesman as well, but contrast where your life is now and where it maybe would have been if you hadn't have stuck with it.
Yeah. You know? My wife, I met at school, my best friends. Interestingly enough, the dude who recruited me to play football in college ended up becoming a State Farm agent in Frenchtown, Missoula, or just outside of Missoula. And he's the one who told me there was an opportunity opening in Helena.
Oh, really? Okay.
So this opportunity in Helena was posted for one day.
Okay.
And I competed against a bunch of people, and thankfully I had a good interview that day. But I've thought a lot about that connection with Concordia. In fact, my football coach, a different football coach, actually saw my business card. So I worked for a State Farm agent in Moorhead, Minnesota. And so you still hear that Minnesotan accent.
Not going away.
But anyways, he saw my card on the State Farm agent's desk and said, "How do you know Joe?" And I was selling telecom at the time.
Okay.
And he's like, "Oh, we're working together on some, phone and internet or whatever." And he's like, "Dude, find a way to hire this kid."
Wow.
He's gritty. He's a hard worker. He's a people love him.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy because he just recently called me. Coach Kohler, Bob Kohler, called me when he saw that we won the Business of the Year in Helena. And he said, "Do you remember when I told David Eggers in Moorhead that he should talk to you about working at State Farm?" I said, "Yeah." I actually got kind of emotional about it because it was a big deal for us.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool when you think about all those little connections and how they've helped us or shaped the way our lives have turned out.
Going back to when you applied for the office in Helena, what do you think it was that set you apart for them to choose you out of everybody else?
Oh, that's a fun question. So I was very nervous about the opportunity.
I can't picture you nervous, so that's good. It makes me feel better.
Well, we really wanted Montana. My wife really wanted Montana. We had been offered a couple other agencies that just weren't a good fit for us and our family and what we wanted. My wife's from Montana. And so I was like, I got to know my numbers inside and out. I got to have this plan. I have to have all these things organized and dialed in. And it was the day of the interview. I mean, I was over prepared. And I just had this pit in my stomach about being authentic. You know me well enough to know. I mean, don't get me wrong. We work in a complex industry that the details are very important. I've hired really, really talented people to get into the details for me.
Yeah.
That's not my strength.
Sure.
I'm very passionate about the work that we do. I'm passionate about people and relationships, loving people, taking care of people, and just doing what's right for people and bringing people together. And so I had this moment where I called my business coach and I just said, this is not me. I'm trying to prepare to be this super analytical. This is how I'm going to run a business on paper. And I'm like, that's not me. And he's like, trust your gut. It's gotten you to where you are today.
Right.
And so I scrapped all of that work.
Really?
I literally told them in that interview, I go, if you have any questions about my business plan, let me know. But you guys can review my business plan. I want to spend our time in this interview talking about 3 things that I think set me apart from the competition. And the really cool thing about that, I look back and that was kind of a little flex. Now I look back, it wasn't intended to be that way. But I look back on it, and that was a Friday. They said they had some candidates that they were going through, quite a few people apply for this opportunity, and that they would have a decision by Wednesday.
Okay.
And so I remember being in the interview. We had it slotted for about an hour. It stopped at about 35, 40 minutes. I thought it went pretty well. And it ended kind of abruptly, which was a little bit concerning for me. But anyways, my wife or girlfriend at the time, my wife at the time, and we went to dinner, and I'm just like, hey babe, I did the best I can. I was honest. I was authentic. I was myself. And so, I hope we did well. I hope we get it, but I feel good in my heart that we did, that I gave them the truest version of what they would come to expect if we got that opportunity. And they called me that Friday afternoon while we were at
that same day.
That Friday afternoon while
we don't need to wait till Wednesday.
So it was really validating.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm, if I may, I think that's why we've had success here, is that we, we focus on people,
right,
and loving people and doing what's right for folks. And we make mistakes just like everyone else, but I think with what we do and how I train my team and the types of people that we get, we own them. We're all human beings. I'm guessing you've made a mistake before in your life.
A couple times.
I make probably more than anybody, but I think there's a huge value in looking people in the eye and saying, you know what, I messed up and I'm sorry, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it right.
Sure.
And it's amazing how many relationships I've built with people off messing something up because they know where they stand with us.
Sure. No, that's great. You've covered so many different good points. Authenticity is huge. And, you get voices in your ear telling you got to be a certain way, act a certain way. I remember hearing a story about Katy Perry, the musician. When she was first coming on, they wanted her to be Avril Lavigne meets Alanis Morissette. Angry, kind of, grungy. And she tried, and it just wasn't her. And now she's been a super successful star. And I think that's super important, is figuring out who you are, being authentic, as well as knowing what your strengths are. Some people would have maybe done really well just going over the numbers in that interview, but you took what was going to work for you. And I mean, they called you that same day. So congrats. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Tell me about homecoming, King. That's a cool story, I bet.
So I went to a small liberal arts school, Concordia College. Go Cobbers.
What was your major?
So I ended up double majoring in communications and sociology.
Okay.
Had 3 internships, played football, and still graduated in 4 years. So I don't tell you that because of how awesome I am. It was just I had great advisement, and it was a good fit for me.
You were busy.
Yeah, I was very busy. I actually ended up being recruited to be in admissions after I graduated.
Yeah.
So I worked for Concordia for a couple of years after I graduated, sharing my story with people because it's a powerful story. But anyways, at Concordia, homecoming is a huge tradition. I don't think it's one of those things that's kind of weird if you're not if you don't maybe go or be. It's just hard to understand why it's such a big deal, but it is. And I was very surprised to be nominated to be on the court, and even more surprised when I was selected. So your guess is as good as mine.
That's really cool, though.
I do think obviously I played sports, but I also was a backstage director of Guys and Dolls. I also took music classes. I also lived in dorms that weren't just all the athletes. And so I love music. So I kind of hung out with some of the music people. And so I think it probably happened because I didn't have this one, what do they say, a clique of people or a group of people. I kind of there's a small number of minorities on campus too. And so I was very involved with the Intercultural Center and a lot of international students I connected with. One of my best friends, his name's Imran. He lives in Kenya now, Nairobi, Kenya. He's one of my good friends. So I think it was just my friend group transcended any one particular. And so that's probably what I mean.
Well, you put people at ease. That's one of the reasons, this is a newer podcast. And as I'm finding my voice and my feet, I want to be around people who I'm comfortable with. And that's you. So you do a good job at that. And I think that, is a big part of why you are having such great success here in Helena. Business of the Year. What went into that? Why do you feel like your business was chosen for that out of all of Helena?
Yeah, it must have been a down year, huh? Here's what I would say is, for one, I have an amazing team of people who work, with me and for me. I always tell my team that we work together. They don't work for me, they work with me. Mm-hmm. And so I think it starts with having an amazing team of people who care a lot about what we do and why we do it. Mm-hmm. I've been in this industry a long time, and I feel like we've seen a lot of folks, good people, even in Helena over the last few years, just wash out. Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy. It's tough work. It's very fast paced, and it's competitive, and it can grind you down. And so if you're not in it for the right reasons, I think it's easier to walk away. And so I really try to focus on hiring great people, who love people, who care about people, who have a servant heart. And that's the number one thing I think of why we found success. The other thing I would say is, when we moved here, my wife and I, we did not know anybody. Mm-hmm. And so we had to find creative ways, like you are.
I didn't know anybody either.
Right. Yeah. Like you are with the podcast or with the other events that you run and supporting other businesses and whatnot. We had to find ways that we could be genuine and authentic in our kind of process of being contributing members of the community. Mm-hmm. And so not like, hey, I volunteered at the food shelf, so come buy insurance from me, but like, hey, we love this place. We chose this place. We are committed to raising our kids here and making this the best, doing our part to make Helena the best version of itself. Mm-hmm. And we took that very personally. I took that very personally. And so my business does not work without the support of the community.
Right.
And so I believe that people have a choice with their money, and a lot of times, and what we're learning, and thankfully it worked, but what we're finding is people are choosing to do business with people who are supporting the community, and who are giving back to the community, who are spending their money in the community, who are invested in the success of the community that they serve in. And I think, the combination of having really great people, working really hard, and, being very community focused has resulted in us getting some recognition for being an up and coming business in this community. So
you've got your hand in everything. I mean, are you a board member on the chamber?
Yep.
Board member on the Chamber of Commerce. You were the president of Helena Leaders Network. You're super involved in your charity, which is what?
Well, I actually just came off the board for Family Promise.
Family Promise.
But I just had a meeting yesterday with a wonderful gal who is going around and helping feed some kids who are food insecurities in town, and connected her with our executive director at Family Promise. So I'm not a sitting board member anymore, but I'm still helping. And it's called Family Promise. And just really quick, if I may, Family Promise helps families, so particularly people who are unsheltered, who are homeless, who have kids. Mm-hmm. I was homeless as a kid.
Wow.
And so it wasn't my fault. And I remember being a kid and feeling, not worthy or like embarrassed that we had to go to the food shelf to get food, or, we didn't have Christmas presents, so some family donated them to us. I just remember feeling like I lost some of my dignity or whatever, because that was a situation. And as a kid, you shouldn't feel that way. It's not your fault.
Right.
And so I'm really, really proud of the work that Family Promise does in this community, and I'll continue to support them in any way I can. But unfortunately, and I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk about this or not, but I think I kind of got to the point where I got too overextended.
Right.
And
you can't do everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, not well.
Not well. Right.
And
right.
I think that's one of the things. One of the things I really want to be intentional and thoughtful about is not overcommitting to things and then falling short.
Sure.
I want to do a few things really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling like I was spread too thin to do a good job at any of the stuff I was doing. Like you said, I was involved in a lot of stuff, in a leadership position in a lot of stuff. And I have kids.
Yeah.
And so I have a family, and that's really, they're everything to me. And
Right.
so it's tough to balance all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you got a bunch of kids.
I've lost count with how many kids. I've got a lot of kids, and trying to balance everything, it's a real art. And
Yeah.
if you realize that you're not able to keep all those balls juggled in the air, you gotta simplify and prioritize, and obviously family comes first. So
Yeah.
that's great.
What I've been kind of realizing is it's a pendulum that swings.
Sure.
And I feel like when we first moved here, because of the situation, we didn't have kids. We had Archer was born. He just turned 6 on Saturday.
Oh,
believe it or
okay.
not. So I'll always know how long I've been in Helena, because Archer turned 6. Archer was born 6 months into when I opened my agency.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, I think I'm learning that it's a pendulum that swings. When we were first here and our home obligations weren't as significant, you could do more of these things. And as our kids grow up and are involved in things, and the demands, my business is growing in a way that I really need to be really diligent about making sure that we're making the right steps moving forward. And so I'm really heavy into really focusing on my business right now and my family. And unfortunately, there's only so many hours in the day. And so
Right.
we have to make some tough choices. And, and so that was one of the choices I had to make, was to still be there to support the board, but not be a sitting member of the
Right.
board Family Promise. So, but thanks for giving me a chance to
Yeah.
give a plug to those
That's
folks.
a great organization, and so personal for you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Joe, for somebody who is moving to Helena, going to open up a business, is there a piece of advice that you would share with them?
Make sure your tray tables are in their upright and locked positions.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I guess I would just say be authentic, be yourself. Those that, mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind.
Well said.
And so I think be patient. I think stay true to yourself and who you are. I think you have to also be flexible. I mean, I'll tell you, and I'm sure you're experiencing these things, you have this grand plan of how you're going to do things. And life has a way of saying, or God or whoever has a way of saying, we have a little different plan for you. And
Right.
so it's not getting too discouraged in those moments and kind of riding that wave. But be patient, be yourself, work hard and really leverage the resources. What I've come to realize is there's a lot of really amazing folks here in Helena
There
doing a
is.
lot of amazing stuff. And so if I think that's one thing, if I can toot my own horn a little bit, I'm okay being vulnerable and saying, hey, I need help in this space. And I think sometimes it's hard as
Right.
whatever you want to say, as a leader, as a man, whatever. Sometimes it's hard to say, I need help. And there's a lot of really great resources and a lot of really fascinating and talented folks in this community that if you just tell them, hey, I need a little help, they would love to help you.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to, leverage the resources that are available for you here.
I feel like you need to write a little blueprint book, because you've done so well. You've been here 6.5 years, and you're growing, and you're so involved in the community. So I appreciate, your contribution to Helena.
Thank you, sir.
And then to me, you were one of the first people I met, and you got me involved in our biz to biz group and just took me under your wing. So I super appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things to do what's interesting as you grow and as your role changes, that's the hard part about being a leader is it's easy to give away stuff you don't want to do. But then when you have to start delegating the stuff that fills your bucket, that's what's tough to manage. I love meeting new people who are full of energy and ideas, who want to come in and make a splash and an impact in the community. And I want to find a way to do some more of that, especially if you think it was valuable for you. I feel like, all it takes is one person to reach out and connect with you. And it's kind of like, okay, we're not alone. We got it.
Yeah. And there's seasons, we're going to be at a point where our kids are older and we maybe have more time to go back and do some of these other things. Right. So it's just for now, but you're doing such a good job. Joe, where could people find you? How can people do business with you?
So we do a fair bit of marketing. So if you just drive around Helena, you're bound to see me somewhere.
My kids talk about my famous friend Joe Mitchell all the time.
My wife, actually, we found a way to get her involved in the business, and she's just doing an amazing job. She's my marketing director. She has a background in that space, and she's just done a great job. We have our website. It's www.sfmitchell.com. We have our social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that type of stuff. I'm actually in the process of opening a second location. I can't say a whole bunch more about that quite yet, but I can tell you it's going to be in East Helena, and we're really proud of that. We'll be only the second agency to have to be considered a multiple office agent in the state of Montana.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you. So we're really proud about that opportunity. And so I just got to figure out my lingo, but basically whether you're east or west, you can find us. And so I'm old school too, though. I like it when a person stops by and looks you in the white of your eyes and shakes your hand.
Where are you located?
Our west office is on Euclid. We're at 601 Euclid. Sweet D as in David. There's State Farm signs everywhere. And then, our office is 443-0867 and 443-0867. And then my email is just joe@sfmitchell.com, SF like State Farm.
Great.
So we'd love to help you if you, one of the other things I think we do a good job with is we just try to educate folks.
You do.
And I've sat and worked with you before, and you like me to understand that you're not just cracking my knee, like you're explaining to me what's happening. And I think that's something that for folks, if you're just thinking, gosh, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or if this is what's a good fit for me, just let us know. We'll go through everything, and we're not going to twist your arm. And at the very least, you get to learn more about what you're paying for. And if you end up switching and working with us, that's the icing on the cake.
Absolutely. Good. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show. And, I'm a big fan of your office. I refer everybody there, and I just wish you the best of luck in everything you've got going on right now.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of my story with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast.